Hello, hello, and welcome to Unapologetically Yours. I am your host, Melinda Dawn, and I give with my whole heart so others can show up as their true selves, loved without limits. And I wanted to do this video this morning. I had big hair and everything. It's going to be glorious. And there was a topic that I intended to discuss, but I also knew that I had some notes from when I wrote up something that I wanted to share with you as well, called Run Your Own Race. So this morning, I had an interesting conversation with someone, and they were upset. They were PO'd, okay? And I listened to their story. And the connection was pretty bad. Which I promise you, my brain was not cooperating with me. So we made some adjustments to that call to ensure that I wouldn't be filled with anxiety. But turns out some of the anxiety was with the story that was told. Go figure. So, after the story was shared, I validated it. That's rule number one, I think, that's important if you want meaningful, relationships, and if you want someone to feel seen and heard, the validation piece is big. Ultimately, hey, that sucks. That sucks. But then I invited that person. I invited them to retell the story in a positive way, because really what I heard is everything worked out for this person. Everything worked in favor for this person. So that individual began to tell the story. But in the second telling of the story, it was still negative. And I was like, nope, try again. The person laughed, and they retold the story. And it was all positive, and it felt pretty good. And it was also very short. It was a shorter story. I'm laughing because I'm thinking about certain other people who I would love if the story was shorter. Yeah, anyway. So I asked the person, which of the stories felt better to tell? Be honest. Because here's the thing. Sometimes it feels so freaking good to have all that angst inside and express it. And right? It feels good. It feeds something in you, especially if you get that validation, right? Especially if someone's co-signing the junk, right? Or the upset, So it was a toss. It was a toss-up for that person. That's fine. I asked which one felt better for their heart. And it was the second one. Technically the third. And then I asked, well, which one felt better for your brain? And it was the latter one. And then which one is going to make sure that your heart and brain are coherent? The last one. Which one had you laughing? The last one. So, a little tool in that person's toolbox. So I shared it with my husband, the generality of it, right? And then I did that with intention, partly to plant the seed, to plant the seed that he would have that same opportunity, which did come, but my delivery was off. So on my side, because of time constraints, I wasn't able to sit there and validate. I was not able to co-sign the mess of this horrific experience. you know, I found that I had no desire also to listen to this story because it was upsetting or depressing, or it was just like the muck and the mire. And I did apologize. Let me say that. Excuse me. I apologize for not taking more of a moment to validate. Like legit, genuine. But I also shared that with my relationship with him, right? And what we want to do as a couple, as a team, we want to elevate, right? And I don't want to be in the muck and the mire, and I don't want to hear about the muck and the mire. That said, had I heard, either in the beginning or the end of the story, you know, can you sit here with me, or can you, so it's like sometimes you tell a story, you just want the other person that you're telling to be mad with you at the person, right? Let's say there's a third person or a party. The shenanigans of some other entity even doesn't have to be a person. It could be, like a group, like a hideous, insidious group. Y'all know some of those that are going around these days, right? I don't want to talk about that either. But anyway, what's my point? My point is, because of time constraints, I couldn't even really do that piece, right? And then the thing is, what I wound up doing was putting a positive spin, or putting, like a beneficial spin on it. Yeah, and what it had to do was going to a new dentist, because I have this amazing hygienist. Her name is Nicole. Best hands down, period. Oh, she does me right. It's so good. And so I wanted him to have that experience. Didn't even get to meet that person because shenanigans of this place. I have lost my track on the story. So the spin ultimately was, because he did x-rays, let's just get those x-rays over to the dentist that you go to anyway, right? So he left, and he was disappointed. He was disappointed in how I handled it, and how I did not sit with him in the muck and the mire, and we wound up having a conversation about it. And I apologized, like I said, and I also shared this rhetorical question that I had as he was sharing. So I didn't interrupt him when he spoke, right? And one of the things that he was looking for from me basically was like a co-signing of this event, And in our history of marriage, maybe even friendship, there's just something about when, and it's not just, I know it's not just him, but when he shares a story, I'm looking at the bigger picture, and I'm looking at all the different angles, kind of thing. That is what has historically happened. And so my rhetorical question is, do you know who you're talking to? Like, sure, you want that from me, but you know me. Don't you know me by now? Don't you know that what's coming out is a positive spin? And, it's not the best. I'm not even patting myself on the back, because some of y'all might want to call that toxic positivity. So he had left the house. He was away, however many miles away he was. And I'm not going to go into super detail, but I was able to share a different perspective, a perspective of the story that would sound, that would produce different results. There you go. Positive results that everybody would enjoy. And, perspective, right? I saw something recently, and it was it's not perception that creates reality, but it's expectations that create reality. That didn't exactly happen today. Oh my goodness, that's so annoying. No, it's not. It's so delightful. I've got tons of emails to attend to. Yay! Haha, perspective. I do want to figure out how to silence those notifications, though, at least while I'm doing a podcast. So, anyway, in the reframing of what happened, I offered, um, ultimately there are two paths. It's the telling of the muck and the mire story, and that leads to the muck and the mire. And then there's telling a different story. And so I think my intent this morning was to call this the stories that we tell ourselves, or the stories that we tell others. The stories that we tell. That could potentially be a good title. Anyway, reframing that story to something else would have a different result at the end of that path. It'd be like something akin to a bucket of gold, right? When you find the end of the rainbow, Those are, so muck in the mire or gold and sunshine at the end of a rainbow. Which path do you want? Which path would make everybody happy? And so, yeah. Anyway, which story? Which story do you want to tell? Do you want to tell the story that repeats negative cycles, that maybe feeds some kind of addiction to pain and suffering, and whatever dopamine hits you might get from the sad stories where people will validate you and support just how sad and awful your life is, or what bad breaks you get? Or do you want to retell that story and reframe it in a way where you don't feel sorry for yourself, where you are not the victim of life, where life meets you better, where life hands you, I don't know, a martini, unless you're someone who shouldn't be drinking a martini specifically. But, I'm thinking about like a lemon drop martini, right? Instead of when life hands you lemons, make lemonade, right? Maybe life will hand you this delicious, scrumptious, lemon meringue pie. Do you want the sour lemon that you have to do work on and cut up and peel and zest and squeeze and all this stuff? Or do you want just to be handed lemon meringue pie? What if you don't like lemon meringue pie? How about some chocolate? I love me some chocolate. How about death by chocolate? That's a delicious, divine dessert. Would you rather, someone had this milkshake and the other day, and it had some kind of like lid thing, right? And there's brownies and cookies, and they had a spoon, and they were sucking the milkshake and taking bites of the brownie and the cookies and taking the ice cream and the spoon. What if your story led to that? Sounds like a whole bunch of diabetes. It comes down to a matter of choice. It's a decision. It is a decision. And sometimes it feels like that decision is hard or impossible. But you can reframe the word impossible and you can make it I, period, M, period, possible, exclamation mark. I am possible. You can do that. A friend shared that my addiction is to sadness. And I thought about a lot of episodes where I wind up getting all choked up and crying. She might have a point. So I was like, no, I don't want that. I'm going to be addicted to joy. I'm going to be addicted to everything works in my favor for true, for sure, for real. 100. I'm addicted to um um there are some things I think about who my audience might, wind up being. Should I say it? Afternoon delight. How about that? I'm gonna be addicted to that. Um, be addicted to um just all of the things, right? That go smoothly and well and easy, you know? Um, I'm addicted to taking action instead of being frozen, instead of self sabotage, right? I'm addicted to making each next best decision that catapults me into the stratosphere of excellence. How about that? All right. Looking at the time, what I do want to share is this other thing, which would have been the title, "Run Your Own Race." So who knows what this is going to be titled, but that phrase is something that a friend shared with me recently, because I struggled, and I shared that I was struggling with feelings of insecurity regarding another person who is further along than I am. I shared it because I knew she would guide me, and I knew she would help me to get over this BS, right? And she did. So, those 4 words, run your own race, for you moms that are out there, or people who connect with children. If you've ever watched a Bluey episode, you might have seen that particular one. There's a book by its same name that I've read to my children multiple times, Run Your Own Race. And the story was a mom, Chili, Bluey's mom, and she was so excited because Bluey, as a baby, there were some milestones that she had reached very young, right? And so the grandmother was like, oh, that's so early. She's like, I know. And then things like that, right? The dad was involved, and he was like, oh, she's just something special, right? So in this case, in the story, there were other moms with their little puppies, who were also hitting milestones. And there was one other puppy who sat up first, which is one of the steps towards walking, right? And so it began to be this race for her in her own mind. She and her husband, Bandit is his name, were doing everything they could to get their daughter to walk. And they wanted to have that race be won by their daughter, right? They wanted the accolades and the praise of her accomplishment, right? And lo and behold, the other person won that race. And one of the moms came over, and she reminds me of my friend Dina Fox, and she told Chili to run your own race. And turns out, this lady, can't think of her name, but she had tons and tons of kids, and it's such a great message. Now, in the TV show, Bluey, how this happens is Bluey has a younger sister. Bingo is her name. Oh. Bingo is her name, Bingo. Bingo is her name. Okay, anyway. She was asking she was talking about being better than Bingo in certain things and being better than this other character in things. And the mom said, run your own race. And then she tells a story. So, here's the deal. It's your own race, and you're not really competing with anyone. unless obviously you're doing sports, some sort of athletic thing, right? And, I don't know, it goes all the way to the, what is it called? The Olympics, right? But in essence, each of those runners and each of those shot putists, is that how you would say it? Each of those swimmers, they're trying to beat their own time as well, right? And so if you were to focus on just you being better than you the last time, getting a better time than yourself, rather than getting into the habit of, or the pattern of, comparing yourself to somebody else and to somebody else's race. Everybody has a different story. Even if you might share some things that are similar, there's different backgrounds, there's different reasons why they are maybe as accomplished as they are. A lot of it could actually happen to deal with or be because of trauma, right? You've got all these overachievers out there because of the freaking childhood trauma that they experienced, which made them feel like they weren't good enough unless they performed, and so they became overachievers, and they're always doing something, and they can't ever just be still. And maybe you're really good at being still, but you feel bad that you're not doing more because this other person is doing so much, and you're, I don't know, maybe it feels like you're sitting on your butt, which might be because of your own trauma. Anyway, it doesn't matter. You're not in competition with that other person. Not really. And so, if you focus on your own race and being in your own lane and your own timetable, it doesn't matter that their success happened when they were 32 and you're 48 without the success. Maybe it's a couple months away. Maybe it's even a couple of years away, but it's going to be extraordinary specifically to you. And when you have that success and when you feel that rush of, I don't know, joy from your accomplishments, you're not going to be in that moment. You're not going to be worried about the person who got there at 26 or that 32-year-old, right? You'll just be enjoying your moment. So I'm encouraging you to stay in your own lane, to stay in your own moment, but also to choose the story that you tell. And maybe there's no story at all. There's just your own admonishment to yourself to get up, to lift up your chin, to have your shoulders, back and down. Smile on your face, laugh, right? I'm thinking about the whole thing that happened with Jacob, and I said something about what if he looked at the scenario that happened, right? And laughed at it, and so I did this fake laugh, ha 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 ha. And he laughed because it's absurd, but what if you just laugh? And what if it feels so absurd that you genuinely laugh afterwards? And aren't you gonna feel so freaking good and so much better than if you sit in the muck and the mire and the tears and the poop and the filth and the yuck? Yes, you will. You will. All right, so your timeline, your timetable, it's a solo race. My friend, getting back to the story of me running my own race, encouraged me that I will arrive at my destination, to my finish line, in the time that's right for me, and that perhaps my race at the pace that it is, which might be slower than others, comes with it a blessing. What if I were to rush that success? And in that rushing, part of the story became the loss of a child. That would be devastating. So that was a sober way to view it, to not get so caught up in it happening faster. It's happening at the pace that it is, and everyone that is important, that is around me, is healthy and safe and happy, right? And so I would absolutely rather get to the finish line running my own race at my own pace, however slow, however fast that would be, and have that security of enjoying that success with the people that I cared about instead of losing them, you know? What was wild is the very next day, she shared horrible news of someone who did lose a child to a tragic illness. And it absolutely does not mean that that person was running their race too fast, right? But it was an acknowledgement that horrible things like that can happen, you know? And so count your blessings each and every day, and get to your finish line on your own timeline. And nobody else can run that race for you. Only you can do it. And you can witness somebody else's race, and you can choose to feel bad about yourself because you're not there, or you could choose to think, oh, that's not fair, or you can choose to spur them on and congratulate them and have like a, good for you attitude, and the knowledge that, oh, it's possible, and maybe they're racing for something else, but their dreams and meeting those dreams became possible for them. And if anybody else could do it, surely I could do it. And I have a different dream than they do, right? But I can focus on my dream and my purpose, and know that it's possible, right? It's possible to achieve. So, I am looking back at my notes. Let's see. So it was a reminder to not rush. It was a reminder to stay in my lane. It was a reminder to hold the line, which I wanted to look that saying up, which I never did. So I called my little sister from a heavenly mister, Akila. I'm so proud of her. She just launched her podcast with her bestie. And I love, love, love her artistry. I love the vibes. I love the creativity. And when I called her, she answered, which is great because for the last couple months, it's like we have not been able to connect. So I was very encouraged that she answered. But I confessed to her that seeing her step up into this space had me doubting myself. It had me doubting my purpose, doubting my podcasting journey, that I thought of quitting because I'll never be as good as like hers, right? As perfect as I perceived hers to be. Like, oh, it's amazing. I freaking flippin' love it. I love the artwork, right? And it's drops this Saturday. So they've already done the podcast episode, and now you have to wait till Saturday. It's Wednesday. That's Thursday, Friday. That's 3 days I gotta wait. But the anticipation that's building, right? Like, she's doing it so good and so well. And I'm so happy for her. And that's her race and her lane. And I do it differently. I do it very ADHD, very ADHD, very me. So anyway, she was able to scratch that record, the record of what I was saying, right? the story that I was telling, and we were able to laugh and connect. And I was able to simply congratulate her for her race and for what she's doing in her lane. So when all of that was going down, I was on a trip to California with Michelle. And whoo, what a trip it was. We got delayed in Atlanta, and no more. When it's wintertime, it ain't hot Atlanta, it's Icelanta. It was freezing. It was crazy, insane. Just, there were so many delays. It was, it felt insane. I did ultimately, do my everything works in my favor. Thinking about lives that were saved. Actually, while we were in line, we were getting in line. I tell y'all everything. I confess stuff to y'all all the time. So anyway, I cut in line. I did. I cut in line. And so she made a comment about it. And I thought to myself, but I didn't say it. I thought to myself, it's okay. I'll make up for it because I'm in the exit row. And I'll just help all these people get off the plane if the plane crashes. This was a thought that I had in my mind. And we get on the plane. They start to taxi out, only to be paused. And then there was a mechanical issue. And so then they're like, okay, hey, there's a mechanical issue, so we're going to bring the plane back. Oh, but wait, there's no place to put the plane because all the spots are filled up now. Okay, so 2 hours later, we get off the plane. And it turns out it was an issue with the flap on the wing, so that definitely could have meant a crash, and me having to guide people off safely. But very grateful that it did not come to that. Very grateful for all of the little doohickeys and the alarm bells and whatever lights that come up that tell the people there is something wrong with this plane. So I did not have that type of tragedy. There was a lot of perimenopause that was happening for me, like on steroids. So like perimenopause times ADHD. It was just so much. It's so much. Like I forgot stuff at the hotel. I had to go back to the hotel. The airline that we chose to go on, which is sounds really good when you first look at the sticker price until you have to add your seat price, and you have to add your bag price, and you have to add your oxygen price, and you have to add your I don't know, get on the plane first price, right? They nickel and dime you for all of the things. You might as well have bought a ticket on, another airline. Anyway, let's see. I'm looking back over my notes now. Let's see. Y'all, let's see. Oh gosh. Oh yeah. All right, so everything works in my favor. The delay saved lives, and it connected lives. Each of us, strangers, had beautiful moments of connectivity, and I saw it as I looked at the others who were helping everyone they recognized, informing them of the concourse change. Okay, so we had to go from concourse E to concourse T, and the flight was supposed to be boarding 7 minutes after we discovered the news. But as people were walking to where we were, like, I don't know, E4, they recognized a fellow passenger, and they're like, no, we have to go to concourse T. So that was nice. I was able to chat with several people and share parts of my story and get advice from a fellow mom, my exit row mate. She was flying out to be on the Wheel of Fortune. I also met a therapist, Savannah, and we were able to chat about a topic important to both of us, domestic violence, and her desire to help women heal from the trauma that is present and the correlation between domestic violence and child abuse, she too had an epiphany moment, linking the likeness of accepting domestic violence from a partner if childhood abuse was present. So this is something that I had my own reckoning with, if you will, years ago, about parenting and using physical, I'll just say violence, with a child. It has been framed in a way by people as love, teaching children, that the world is harsh and so they have to be prepared for it. Also reframed in a way of, if you spare the rod, right, like the belt, the twig, whatever it is, your hand that you're using, that you'll spoil the child if you spare the rod. And so in these cases, it's presented as, I'm doing this out of love, and I'm certain that many parents are doing it out of love. And simultaneously, there are parents who, even those loving parents, who do it in and out of frustration and anger. And it's what they know, and it's what they were taught, and it's what they think the Bible teaches them. I don't know. What I do know is that I don't judge other parents. And I have spanked my kids. I've spanked all 3 of them, even though I decided I wasn't going to, right? And so I've fallen into certain patterns. So at least one of the times, it was reflexive. It was definitely a reflex, which just showed me how human I am, and I was able to share that with my child. I get it. I get how you were able to just hit your sibling that quick, because I just hit you that quick. My snaps are off. There we go. Do y'all... Let me tell you stuff white people do. High fives, they redo high fives. If it's a bad high five, they will redo it. That's stuff white people do. My cousin, who's half Thai, half white, sent me that book. It was called SHIT, White People Do. It's hilarious. That's definitely one of them. My husband is one of those white people. My best friend is one of those white people. You know what? I'm one of those white people that do that sometimes. All right, so back to Savannah. So I was able to share some insights from the work that I've done beyond talk therapy with with my existing therapist, Rachel McLeod. Also, I share those things in order to encourage and expand her practice. So we talked about dating, and of course I told her all about Shay Your Love Diva, and I got her to follow her. I was able to talk to a torts attorney. That was on my first flight. And I got to meet a dad-son couple on their trip to California. It was the son's first time. Great connections with this delay, with this seemingly horrible experience, right? Oh, it's so bad. My flight was delayed. It's so bad. I'm not getting there in the time I'm supposed to. Oh, it's so bad. Or was it so good because I got to meet Savannah? I got to meet the lawyer. I got to meet, actually on my return trip, which was also delayed because I missed the flight, which is another long story, which I will not tell you right now. But I got to meet a police officer who works for the city of Tampa, Ryan. Yeah, we talked about dating. We talked about Shay Your Love Diva. As a matter of fact, we talked about how and why things didn't work out with his last love interest. We talked about a potential interest who I don't know her name, but she's also an officer. I'll say that. And if you see this one day, lady, which by the way, you're gorgeous. He showed me pics. Um, he said that for you, he would wait until marriage to kiss you. I told him my story, which he was like, whoa, whoa, y'all didn't even kiss? Much less, you know, nope, we didn't. Um, and this woman has a lot of beautiful characteristics about her, um, that he would wait for her. Now, will they ever date? I don't know. I wanna find him. I want to see if he wound up making some adjustments based on a conversation she had with him. Hmm. I'm wishing him the absolute best, but those conversations, those meetups with these people would not have happened if we didn't have that delay, So, um, yeah, everything, even the, you know, inconvenient things can be things that totally work out in your favor. So, I am going to end this episode with that. And I'll have to come up with a title. I don't know what it'll be, but I am excited to have made this episode happen. And I am excited about giving you more. So, thank you so much. And how do I close this thing? I'll do the question, what if being unapologetically me is exactly what sets someone else free? So I hope in what I've shared, there is something in it that's a gem, something in it that's a nugget of wisdom, something in it that sets you free from maybe patterns that don't align with the woman or the man that you really want to be, that you really are at your core. And so thank you for giving me the opportunity to share my life with you. I appreciate it.